Hello friends, welcome to this video. In this video, we will talk about my reading for the first half of the year. And I'm really excited to go over all of my stats. That is what we're going to do first, go over all of my stats. And then I am going to answer the mid-year book freakout questions. Honestly, is there anything more to say? I think we should just hop straight into it because my outros have been way too long in the last few videos. So let's go straight into it. Let's talk about stats first. All of them are going to be up to the end of June. So nothing in terms of July has influenced any of these. And also, I do want to mention quickly, I know that I'm a little bit late to this, but it's okay. Better late than never. And also, it's not too late. It's only like around halfway through July. So I think we're still in kind of like the green area. But anyway, so the total books I read up until the end of June were 25, which I think for me is honestly pretty good. My reading goal this year is 52 books, so that would be one book a week. So I was one book behind, but I think it's still pretty good. And this is throughout like the months. So in January, I read 5 books. February, I read 3, March 4, April 5, May only 1. I was in a massive reading slump, and then it skyrockets to 7 books, which to me is really crazy. I don't know what happened in June, but it was a really nice reading month. I read 9,770 pages total, so almost 10,000, which honestly for me is, I think, pretty good. So I read a lot of longer books, which also shows in the average pages per book, which is 900, oh god, which is 391. And that I think is pretty good for like an average, especially because I did read a few books that were like 70 pages or like one book. So it brings it down even more. So I'm happy about that. And then let's get into genres. As you can see, I read a huge array of genres. I usually kind of do. But my number one genre is and will be probably murder mystery. Yeah, it shows. That is definitely the majority, and right followed by thriller and then fantasy. So I read 8 mysteries, 4 thrillers, 4 fantasy, 2 contemporary, 1 magical realism, 1 dark romance, 2 romance, 1 dystopian, and 2 graphic novels. So I'm pretty happy about the wide array of genres that I read. And then in terms of book size, I read 4 books that are small. And for me, small is like below 300 pages. And then 2 books that are large, which is around like over 500 pages. And then medium is like between 300 and 500, which I read 19. So most of my books were between 300 and 500, but I feel most books are between that. So that makes a lot of sense. I do have one category that is chunky, which is over 800 pages. So we have not read one yet. I think we came close once. I think The Well of Ascension is like 750 pages. So pretty close, but not quite there. By the way, the stats I'm using for this and my spreadsheet for your reading, I customized it like very heavily, but I will link down below the original creator. She just put it out there. It was really kind. It's a really great spreadsheet, so I will definitely link it down below. And then publication date, which I think is very interesting. I only read 2 new releases so far this year. 3 now, actually. Go check out my summer reading vlog if you want to see that. And then 8 books that were published last year, which is pretty good as well. Getting like caught up on some of the new releases last year. And then 15 backlist books. I think I could read a little bit more new releases, but other than that, I think it's pretty well balanced. And then the format is always interesting to me. In February, I bought my e-reader, so I've been getting heavily into ebooks. It doesn't super reflect on this graph because a lot of the ebooks I read as mixed media, so with the audiobook as well. So they show up as a mixed media. Yeah, honestly, pretty happy with this. The mixed media is when, especially when I'm like a little in a reading slump where it's a little harder for me to read, I tend to go for mixed media a lot because it just makes me read so much faster and, be more immersed. So especially if I can't get into a book, I'll try listen to the audiobook while reading either the ebook or the physical book. But in terms of stats, I read 3 ebooks, 11 mixed media, 6 physical, and 5 audiobooks, which honestly, the 5 audiobooks I also think are higher than usual. I tend to not listen to audiobooks as much, more like podcasts, but I really want to listen to more audiobooks, like purely as an audiobook. And then my star rating, this graph is a little bit jumbled, but we have 6 5 stars, which is great. That's like a fourth of my reading, which is insane. And I don't know, I'm really happy about that number, especially since almost all of my reading is a 4 or above. We have 6 5 stars, we have 1 4.75, 5 4.5, and 1 4.25, and then 6 4 stars. And that is a lot. Like, that is definitely the heavy majority of my reading, which is awesome. Honestly, it's so great that I have so many high rated books. So I hope we can keep this trajectory up. And then following that, we have 2 3.75, and then 2 2.5s, and 2 2 stars, which one of the 2 stars should be a 1 star if I'm completely honest, but let's not talk about it. And then my average rating so far this year has been 4.17, which is really good. I think that's quite a high average rating, and I'm really happy about it. I think it's really great. Ooh, let's get into series. I love tracking my series. So I read 1 companion novel, 10 parts of series, and then 14 standalones. I think that's pretty well balanced as well. And then I started 6 series. I continued or made progress in 4 series. I finished 1 with the first book of the year, actually, Mockingjay. So I finished the whole Hunger Games trilogy. And then I'm up to the publication of 2 series, but now it's only 1 because Leather and Lar came out, and I only read Butcher and Blackbird. But those are companion novels, but I still see them as series. So Butcher and Blackbird was the one companion novel that I read. And then I see DNF 0, and I am still in the middle of 19 series. I don't think that's too bad. I think it could be a lot worse. Not too bad. And then in terms of the author's gender, I only read 4 books by male authors and then 21 by female authors, which I like that ratio. I do. I tend to prefer books written by women. But I do really love Grady Hendrix, Brandon Sanderson, Stephen King I really want to get into. So I'm not saying all men are bad writers or anything remotely close to that, but women. Okay, those are my stats. So now let's get into the mid-year freakout questions. So the first one is already a juicy question. Which was the best book of the year so far? And I definitely have to go with The Change by Kirsten Miller. It was so good. I just picked it up on a whim, scrolling on Everend. I think it was in the feminist contemporary or feminist something section. And I came across it, and I even scrolled past it. And then I scrolled back up, was like, what is this? And then it was literally incredible. Incredible. It was so empowering and so incredible. If you're a woman, highly, 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 highly recommend. Definitely a 6-star read if I've ever seen one. Then the next question, how many books have you read so far this year? We already covered 25. And the best sequel that I've read so far this year is Mockingjay, which was also my first book of the year, as I already said. It was just really good, and I read it. It was my boyfriend's sister's copy, and I immediately talked to her while I was reading it, and then we watched all the movies together. So the whole experience was great, but also The Hunger Games is just a great book series. So what more can I say? Then the next question is a new release that you haven't read yet, but you really want to. And I have a few. First off, I just hauled this very recently, is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I don't know. You know, it's Emily Henry. I really just want to read this. I love Emily Henry so much. So I hope I get to read this soon. And then we have Murder Road by Simone St. I've heard so many great things about all of her books, honestly, so I really want to get into her books. I've never read a Simone St. James book, but this could very well be the one. And then The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. I also really want to read that. It sounds like such a weird book, maybe a little bit in the similar vein of Tender is the Flesh. So yeah, I love weird books. And then The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry. I really enjoyed her Alice book series, or especially the first one. So I really want to read more by that author, and the premise sounded really intriguing. Next question. Most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. We have Death at Morning Star by Maureen Johnson, who is the writer of the Julie Jeeves series. And I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed that trilogy. It was really good, like dark academia, YA, twisty, fun. I don't know. I'm looking forward. I think the premise sounded really great as well, even though I can't remember it. And I think it sounded really intriguing and maybe like more thrillery. And I think also adult. And then one I'm really excited about is Queen Bee by Juno Dawson, which is like a prequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven. It took me a little while to get into it, but after that, I so adored and loved this book. So I cannot wait to read The Shadow Cabinet, the sequel, and also this when it comes out. I'm really excited for it and really looking forward to that. Then we have The Examiner by Janice Hallett, which I have all of her other books, and I'm really excited. I didn't love The Appeal. That was one of my 2-star books, I think, or 2.5 stars. So that was a little disappointing, but as like she published her books, they've definitely gotten so much better. And I really love the Twyford Code and the mysterious case of the Elves and Angels. So I'm really excited for her new release. And then what was my biggest surprise? And again, it is definitely going to The Change by Kirsten Miller. As I said, I picked it up on a whim, not expecting much, and it was so good. It was so good. Read it, please. Read it, please. Read it, please. Especially if you're a woman. Like, definitely read it if you're a man as well. But the empowerment. The empowerment. Okay, so new favorite author, new to me or debut. Do I have to say Kirsten Miller? I looked up some of her other stuff, and it seemed like they were a little different from The Change, but I'm definitely going to look more into her books. Also, I read Sheets this year by Brenda Thumler, and in the podcast Books Unbound, they talk a lot about her and with her actually in some episodes, so I've heard a lot about her, and the book was great, and she seems like the best person, so definitely want to read more of her work. The newest fictional crush. This was really hard because honestly, in the books that I read, there weren't many. I don't know. It just didn't really. I couldn't have an answer for this one. I do want to mention Ravi from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder because I reread this year, and he's just great. You know, we love him. We love him. And then book that made me cry was a little hard one. I'm kind of speculating on some of them, but I do have very vivid memories of like a lot of them. So first of all, again, we have The Change. I don't think it made me like fully like cry, but tear up definitely. Also Mockingjay, of course, made me cry, I think several times. Ah, the trauma. Yeah, baby. You want some attention? No. Let's just talk about some books while she's here. So I also reread The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo this year. And I was listening to the audiobook while walking, like taking a walk. And I was in a little bit of a crowded area when something happened. And I full on sobbed and cried. It was insane. So that definitely made me cry. And then lastly, we have The Final Empire, which this ending, still not over it. Will never be over it. I will never be over it. And then on the other side of that, we have a book that made me happy. And again, we have The Change. It's probably going to be in every category, honestly. But we also have Sheets which I showed you. Again, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, rereading a favorite, is just amazing. And then also the Tea Dragon Society and the Tea Dragon Festival, actually, which are just the cutest little books of all time. Oi, you stuck? The cutest little books of all time. Literally, it's just about tea dragons. What more can you need? Then the most beautiful book that you bought or received. Both of these were gifts for my birthday. So one of them was The Priory of the Orange Tree, gifted to me by my birthday. By my birthday, by my boyfriend. He currently has it. He's not a reader, but somehow he convinced himself that he's going to read this chunk of a book, which good for him. I wish him all the best. Good luck. But it's stunning, and he also gave me The Day of Fallen Night, which is the sequel, and it's also stunning, but he also has that one in Norway. And then one thing I got from my friend is The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is, I mean, super stunning. All of these covers really are. But I have not heard the best things about Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I heard very mixed reviews. So definitely let me know your opinion on that, because there seem to be a lot of differing opinions. Okay, so what book do I need to read by the end of the year? I have a few again. First of all, we have The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Like, come on. Why haven't I read this already? I own the whole series other than the third one. I'll have to get that one soon. Then secondly, I also just hold this, is The Crimson Moth. I don't know, I have high expectations, but also I'm kind of expecting to be let down. Those are probably an oxymoron, but what can you do? Sounds super intriguing to me. Hope I read this soon. And then one book or series that not a lot of people probably heard of is The Last Apprentice, aka The Spooks Seventh Son series. This is the very last one. All of these books, I don't know how well you can see them, are in that series. So this is the 13th one. And this is my boyfriend's favorite book series from when he was younger, the only books he ever read, basically. So, of course, he made me read it with him, and I'm honestly really enjoying them. They're great, they're readable, they're spooky, surprisingly creepy, and overall, just great books. So I'm really hoping to finish it with him this year. And then, of course, we have Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I'm really, really hoping to read very soon, hopefully still in summer. The next question is, how many 5-star reads have you had this year? And we also already covered that. I had 6. Then, what book do I want to reread this year? And this is a surprise, but I actually want to reread A Good Girl's Guide to Murder again, because the first time I reread it, it was because my boyfriend's brother was reading it, and now my boyfriend and his sister are actually reading it. So kind of just want to reread it with them and then follow through with the series, hopefully, which I'm very excited for them to get to the 3rd book. Now, a book that you enjoyed with mixed reviews. First of all, there is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Honestly, I was so insanely thrilled that it was good and not the dumpster fire that Five Survive, in my opinion, was. Like, let's just not talk about it, okay? Let's just not talk about it. Five Survive never happened. It never happened, okay? But I really enjoyed The Reappearance of Rachel Price. Read it very fast. I basically ran to the bookstore to get this copy. As soon as it came out, I had to go to 3 separate bookstores, but the 3rd one finally had it. So I really enjoyed that. And I don't think a lot of people, there are some people that think Five Survive is better than The Reappearance of Rachel Price. They reread the same book. Like, when people give Five Survive like 4 or above, or 3 or above even, they reread the same book. Holly Jackson, can we please go back to British things and not American focused books? Thank you. And then the other one is The Things We Do to Our Friends, which I was actually a little surprised that it had that many mixed reviews. Most of them actually more on the negative side than on the positive one. But this cover, I've solely picked it up on the cover because it was so stunning. And I read it and I actually annotated it as well. And I remember being very entertained by it. I don't think it's like the highest form of literature, but I don't think that's what it wants to do, and also not what it needs to do. I really enjoyed that. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I can't remember exactly what happens, so it's not the most like, it's not sticking in my brain for too long, but for when I read it, I loved it. And then last question, we have 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. And these are books that I already mentioned. One of them is Crimson Moth. Again, a little tentative 5-star, but I'm really hopeful. I really want this to be very, very good, and it might be the next book I'm reading, so hopefully it's good. And then also, pretty predictable, Funny Story by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry so much, and I think this is gonna be another great book. I do plan on making a 5-star predictions video very soon, so there will be more of those, like 5-star predictions. And then, yeah, go subscribe to my channel if you want to. And if you want to see that, if you don't want to miss it, only if you want to. No one's being forced. Yeah, I don't know. I really loved speaking to you about the first half of my reading. Sorry if I felt a little bit rushed. I didn't want the video to be too long and too meandering. So I tried being a little bit more cutthroat. It's probably going to be a very long video regardless. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!